Hello, welcome to Lead 645, Ethical Leadership and Organizational Integrity. This is our introduction to the course, um, and I use the syllabus to go over it, so if you have the syllabus in front of you, that always helps. And I just highlight. I assume you will read it. I encourage you to read it. You need to read it. And if you have any questions, we'll definitely have our first Zoom meeting to go over some of this. But let me highlight some aspects. First of all, my philosophy or my mission. My goal personally is to understand God's leadership, emulate it, and help others reflect it. There is no doubt in my mind that God, and through Jesus, represents an extremely idealistic view of what good leadership is about. In this course, we use not only Bible and theology, but we also use philosophy, history, and social science. And so I've always really gravitated towards Selznick. Philip Selznick was a University of California, Berkeley professor for over 35, 40 years. One of his most influential contributions is institutional theory of organizations. That's how I got to know him. But also, he's written a lot on moral issues. And so he's one of my favorite scholars when it comes to organizational dynamics, organizational processes, and ethical leadership and leadership in general. His 1957 book, Leadership in Administration, was one of the first really clear books about leadership after World War II. So amazing, a long life of authorship. Anyway, in his book on moral commonwealth, he talks about moral science as the blend of philosophy. So you got the acumen of philosophy and the detailing of subtleties and complexities, but you also need with it a tangibility and tying it to reality, and that's what social science does. So we're kind of blending both of these to create what I call a moral science. Uh, it's looking at our moral world with scientific mindset, but also philosophical sophistication. The book that we'll mainly use is Craig Johnson's book. I know him well. We've talked many times, and I highly admire him. In fact, when I was going to write my book on moral leadership, I published many articles on it. So I was going to write a book back in the early at the turn of the century, 1999, 2000. And I started writing it, and his book came out, and I thought his book was better, and it's gotten even better. In fact, the first edition, the sixth edition, I can't believe how much different it is. It's so good. So I highly recommend the sixth edition, the most recent one. Uh, you'll see periodically in here I talk about the Bible and theology, not only because I'm at a Christian institution, but because I believe they present the ideal in what I call moral science, sophisticated understanding of human moral relationships and how to motivate people and how people are deceived and self-deceived and evil and how God works with that. So I find it very useful. It's the paradigm that really guides me. And I also think it shows ethical leadership, especially Jesus' life and his kingdom, organizational integrity. So that's why I use it a lot, because I find it to be where I want to go, the vision I have for my own moral life, and I hope it'll also be for yours. Jesus in John 10:10 said one of the most profound things that has become one of my key verses of Scripture. John 10:10. The thief comes to steal and to kill and destroy, but I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And so I think this life of abundance, is a moral life. A moral healthy life, a physical healthy life, a socially healthy life is what God has envisioned for us. And this life is the integration of the right, which is the law and truth, and righteousness, forgiveness, reconciliation, healing. If you don't have both of those together, you get bifurcated very quickly. Yesterday I read about some honor killings in India, and I felt so overwhelmed with these two girls were killed just because they were videoing themselves with another, walking with another man, and that led the father of one to kill the one because of the shame and honored. Uh, and at the same time, I read about child labor issues and the sexual brothels, and I said, how do they reconcile this? It's because you have to have two pieces together to make a holistic, healthy approach. You need to understand right and what is not acceptable in right and wrong. Um, but you also need to understand the righteousness that holds that together, the healing that needs to take place when people are wrong. And when we get to ethical leadership, that's crucial. Because ethical leadership is about not only seeking the good for our own actions, and we want ourselves to align. We want moral ideals to be expressed in our own lives and choices. But we have to deal with the messiness when they're not, when the world is evil. And when we're evil, how do you manage that? And this is what Christian moral leadership does. It brings in this redemptive accountability and judgment and justice. And so this is why Micah 6:8 is the ideal: love mercy, do justice, walk humbly. But we have to also take into consideration Micah 7:9, the next chapter, which he talks about, hey, though I have sinned against him, he will plead my case and he will usher me into the light of his righteousness. There is something in God's moral kingdom that is more than just right and wrong. It is also redemption. And how does redemptive moral ideals function? So that's what we have to wrestle with. We need to know what the ideal is, and we need to know how to handle when the ideal is not met. And that's difficult leadership. There's four basic outcomes of this course. I'll go over them in a few minutes. So you can take this course for 1, 2, or 3 credits. I've left it that way to be flexible. Many of you have already well-developed moral psyches and well-developed moral practices, and 1 credit is just an opportunity for you to refresh your commitments. Some of you want to dive deeper. Maybe you have an organization that needs some more wrestling with, and needs to be aligned with either more right or more righteousness, either one, to be more holistically moral. And maybe want to take more time and use my expertise to give you some guidance and make that 2 credits or 3 credits. So it's really up to you and your course plan and your desire. Um, um, but I've kind of aligned it really simply. If you're doing 1 credit, by law, you have to do about 50 to 60 hours. So I tell people let's target 60. And I assign 4 points to each of those. So I kind of estimate 240 points to get an A in the course if you take it for 1 credit. Well, 90% of that would be an A minus, etc. But that's the target. And so to do that, you'll need about 12 posts. Um, uh, in fact, that's required of everybody. Everybody has to do at least 12 posts. You can actually do up to 24. There's that many opportunities to post and dialogue. 6 of those posts will be required. The first post, the second post, the 12th, 14th, 18th, and 19th. So you definitely have to make sure you get those. I want to make sure everybody has the basic posts. The intro, where we meet each other, the course goals, where you set your plan, Leadership 101, core chapter in the book that we read. I want you to understand what are the core. I also want you to wrestle with beastly leadership, a very big issue, as I see a lot of people take on the mantle of leadership, and they are beasts and unacceptable moral behavior that God will hold them accountable. We want to go over what that looks like. And then at the end of the course, I want you to share your learning, what you have accomplished, some of your projects, and get feedback from people. And Miles will get feedback from everybody, so everybody has to do that. And then finally, I want you to share at the end of the course your moral leadership statement, what you're committed to, how you drive your own moral uh, directions. So, and then of course, in addition to posts, we have a few more items. One of them is a moral mentoring project. Everybody has to do a moral mentoring project of at least 10 hours, where you're working with somebody on their moral behaviors or on their moral thinking or helping them with new moral ideas. One person has helped an individual who cussed a lot improve their cussing. In fact, it was a female helping a female cousin who cussed a lot. And she was very successful in many regards, but when she would get in these rages, or even when she wasn't, she just always cussed. And it really diluted her immoral influence. And so one of our students worked with somebody on that. I thought it was a creative idea. Another thing could be giving a series of presentations on moral diversity at your church, helping people see that people have different viewpoints. One book that I highly recommend is Haidt's book, H-A-I-D-T, and one person used it to do a series of Sabbath schools in their church on moral diversity. So some moral mentoring, either teaching, coaching, lecturing, mentoring, guiding, and then you'll write that up. It takes about 2 more hours to write it up, so we'll give you 50 points for that target. Everybody keeps track of their hours. 25 points. It's about 6 hours, so it's going to be, you got to keep track every day, put it on a spreadsheet, make sure you turn it in at the end of the course. And then with those who are taking 1 credit, 12 posts, a moral mentoring project hour log is about enough to get an A. You might have to throw in a few more posts, and then you got your A for the course, 240. For those taking 2 or 3 credits, you need to have other self-chosen projects. I highly recommend working on your portfolio, competency or standard. And everybody who takes 2 or 3 credits has to read an extra book. And I have many that I can share with you. One that I'm reading right now, old classic, is C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, which is about morality and moral processes somewhat. Lewis Smedes, who comes 20 years later, also wrote a book called Mere Morality. So there's lots of books out there, and I can be flexible. I have listed a few in the syllabus. And so that's basically your plan. Here, the weekly posts are such that we're going to do 2 or 3 a week. And so there's some that are due on Monday and some that are due on Thursday. And so if you're going to post on Monday, you probably need to start reading on the weekend, start writing on Monday, post on Monday, and then as soon as you post, go back in on Tuesday and Wednesday, see what other people have posted and respond to their posts. And then by Thursday, it should be done. Maybe one last comment here and there on Friday, and then on Friday morning we start grading it. And then grade on into the weekend, depending on how many. But if we don't have a lot of students in this class, we'll probably be able to grade at 10 o'clock Friday morning. So you want to finish up your last post on that when you post on Monday. And then if you're posting on Thursday, you want to read while you're dialoguing with the other ones. If you do 2 posts a week, then you want to dialogue Tuesday and Thursday on the first post, and then start working on your Thursday post. So once again, it'll be a post on Monday and a post on Thursday. But once again, because you have choices, you can decide when you want to do those. There'll be up to 24 possible posts, and I'll go over that. Here's the rubric for it, but it's kind of simple. 6 points for your first robust post, and then I give 1 or 2 points for each of your contributions and talking to others. If it's a sizable contribution dialogue, you give up to 3 points sometimes. I want to see dialogue. Dialoguing is key here. A multiple dialogue is fine too. You don't have to have one big comment. You can have several little comments back to somebody else. Here's an outline of a moral mentoring project. You basically pick a group or a person that you want to help. You dialogue with them about this. Tell them, hey, I'm doing this moral mentoring project where I'm helping people. You co-design it with them. You come up with a conceptual map of what you want to accomplish. Come up with an intervention strategy. Could be weekly meetings. Could be other things that you engage in doing with them. And then you do that intervention, and then you reflect on it. So there's kind of the weighting of the final 3 to 5 page paper reviewing your moral mentoring project. Other possibilities, limitless. The most popular one is, of course, the reflection paper. The reflection paper, or a full competency sign-off, is also possible. Full competency especially means gathering artifacts and getting sign-offs for those in leadership program. So depending on how much you make this could be anywhere from 50-point simple paper for K-12, or a more complex paper with full sign-off for leadership up to 300 points even. Lots of hours of work. And so good time to do it. Get that done. Get it handled right now. Other things I've seen is book and article reviews, case studies. Somebody did a case study in the past, seeking to understand other activity, like why did this Muslim group think this way? Why does this Hindu group, like Baptist, do this? Why Catholic? Wanting to understand other moral people's perspectives, and you can do a review of media, moral improvement for an employee or child is similar to moral mentoring, but it could be a larger project. So there's lots that you create a code of ethics. One person did a research of their organization's codes. So those are some of the things. Here's the schedule. I put in red the required ones. 1, 2, 12, 14, 18, and 19 are required. The blue is the corresponds to Johnson. So if you're reading Johnson, you might as well do the blue. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blue ones. So you combine 10 of those with the mandatory 6. You got 16 right there. You've got a good approach. But I've also thrown in a few other interesting stuff. For example, where did ethics begin? The genesis of ethics will be a post about how did it get started. Was it a moral evolution, or was it God that created it? I throw in something about law, grace, and Jesus' morality. How do we understand the contribution of Judeo-Christian religion to this world of ethics, especially Greek-based ethics, which have dominated for the last 2,500 years? What do we add? I think we add a lot. In fact, I think better than Judeo-Christian ethics. As Paul says, to the Greeks it was foolishness, and to the Jews it was a stumbling block. But for Christians, it's the light of light. I think we've got a moral package that includes high moral standards, but a grace-oriented environment, which is key to moral leadership in a Christian community. I've even written something on ethics myself, which if we want to read, that's post 11, the 4 types of moral leadership every organization needs. I've also thrown in a few late ones here. COVID as a judgment of God. Fascinating video series by my friend Nick Miller and several of his guests on whether we can see COVID as a judgment from God, and what does it mean to have judgments from God against nations and leaders. Fascinating. I also throw in, if you're reading Cooper's Making Judgments book, we'll just devote a period of time talking about that, the difference between judgment and judgmentalism. Miller also has another excellent video on God's moral government and natural ethics. So, and then I do something special on Adventist ethics. What's a uniquely Adventist ethic approach, which I hope somebody takes, but once again, all these are optional. I try to make it a free environment for you. So I hope that's good enough. There's other things in there about some of the visions and some of the nomenclature, and I hope it gives you an example of what you can learn from this course. Here is a sample course goal plan. So everybody has to do a kind of a course plan. What are you going to do in this course? And here's a good example. This person is doing 1 credits. These are he's doing the 6 that he has to. He's doing the blue that he wants to, and he's adding 1 on Adventist ethics, or she is. And so this is 14 posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 posts, which would be about 160 points. Plus 50, that makes 218 points. Plus 25, that would be 38. So more than enough. More than 240 for the course. They might not get straight A's on all the posts, so if they want to do extra, they could, but that's a good target goal. So I hope that's good. I hope that is explain the course good enough for you, and I look forward to you being online and watching the videos. I've collected some, I think, good stuff, and hopefully we get some good dialogue. Thank you for joining me. I love ethics, and I believe God wants us to be morally healthy, just like He wants us to physically prosper. He wants us to morally prosper. In fact, sometimes I think that moral breakdown is the cause of physical disease and suffering many times, not only alcoholism, but pornography and other debilitating behaviors. I think moral breakdown is often the breakdown of social relationships and civic relationships. Civil wars can start over a breakdown of a moral, nuanced understanding. And so I really think this course is important, and I hope you enjoy the journey and hope it adds to your life. Thanks.